When we think about leadership communication, it is tempting to picture a single voice rising above the crowd, a voice of clarity, of command, of authority. And yet, if we look closer, if we listen with the inner ear rather than the outer one, we find that true leadership does not happen through monologue. True leadership lives in dialogue. It breathes in the spaces between people, not in the declarations from above. Leadership is not about speaking at people. It is about speaking with people. It is about engaging in a living, breathing exchange where meaning is not imposed, but co-created, where understanding is not dictated, but discovered together. Dialogue is the medium through which trust is built, misunderstandings are clarified, creativity is unleashed, and shared ownership is forged. When a leader masters the art of dialogue, they unlock a force far greater than obedience. They unlock commitment, energy, and innovation from within their team. Because here's the truth that many leaders miss. When people are merely told what to do, they comply at best. When people are drawn into a real dialogue, they connect, they engage, they care. Dialogue transforms leadership from a mechanical exercise of issuing commands into a dynamic process of growing people. It shifts the leader's role from that of a distant authority to that of a co-creator of vision and action. And let us be clear, dialogue is not simply talking more. It is talking differently. It is talking with the intention to listen as much as, if not more than, you speak. It is talking with the humility to admit you do not have all the answers. It is talking with the emotional intelligence to sense when a conversation needs to slow down, to deepen, to acknowledge the emotions stirring beneath the surface. In leadership, dialogue is not a luxury for special occasions. It is the daily work. Every team meeting, every one-on-one conversation, every casual hallway exchange is either building or breaking the culture of dialogue in your organization. And here is perhaps the most crucial insight. The quality of your leadership is directly tied to the quality of the conversations you are able to hold, not the speeches you deliver, the conversations you steward. A leader who can foster open, courageous, emotionally intelligent dialogue will always outperform the leader who seeks to control communication through monologue and decree, because dialogue taps into the collective mind, the collective heart, the collective will. In this lesson, we will explore the structure of powerful conversations, the delicate balance between speaking and listening, the subtle but powerful role of nonverbal communication, the handling of tension and conflict, and the common conversational traps that erode leadership from within. Because to lead through dialogue is to lead not by force, but by resonance, not by command, but by connection. And in a world where complexity and uncertainty are the new normal, it is no longer the loudest leader who wins. It is the leader who can converse most deeply, most courageously, most humanly. If dialogue is the lifeblood of leadership, then understanding its inner structure is not a trivial matter. Effective conversations do not simply happen by accident. They follow a subtle but powerful architecture, a living rhythm that guides both minds and hearts toward deeper understanding and shared action. The first essential phase is the opening, and it is here, at the very threshold of a conversation, that the future success or failure of that dialogue is often already decided. The opening is about creating psychological safety, about establishing an atmosphere where it is safe to speak truthfully, to express uncertainty, to explore complexity without fear of punishment or ridicule. Without safety, people protect themselves. They say what they think you want to hear. They withhold their real concerns, their real ideas, their real selves. In this opening, a leader must set the tone with conscious intention. This may be done through simple but powerful gestures. A genuine welcome, a statement of openness, all perspectives are valuable here, a small act of vulnerability. I may not have all the answers, and I'm here to learn with you. The message must be clear. This is not a battlefield. This is a space of mutual exploration. The second phase is exploration. This is where the heart of the conversation unfolds, and it must be approached with the spirit of genuine curiosity. Here, the leader listens deeply, asks open-ended questions, reflects emotions and meanings, and allows the conversation to breathe, to wander, to reveal unexpected insights. This is not the moment for rigid agendas or rapid conclusions. It is the moment for discovery, for sensing not only what is said, but what is felt, for following threads of meaning that might lead to deeper understanding or innovative solutions. Exploration requires patience. It demands the willingness to sit with ambiguity, to hold space for complexity without rushing to closure. And it requires, above all, trust. Trust that within the collective intelligence of the team, truths and solutions can emerge that no single individual, not even the leader, could have foreseen alone. The final phase is alignment. After exploration, after emotions have been honored and ideas surfaced, there comes a moment when energy must converge, when understanding must crystallize, when next steps must be clarified. Alignment is not about imposing a decision unilaterally. It is about weaving together the threads of the conversation into a coherent fabric. This is what I'm hearing. This seems to be where we agree. These are the actions we are committing to. Alignment translates dialogue into action, insight into implementation. But beware, alignment must never feel like a betrayal of the openness that preceded it. It must feel like the natural, consensual outcome of a journey traveled together. To summarize, effective conversations move through 3 living phases: opening to create safety and shared intention, exploration to invite discovery and deepen understanding, alignment to focus energy into purposeful, collective action. And it is the skillful navigation of these phases, the ability to open, explore, and align with emotional intelligence and authenticity that defines a leader's conversational power. Conversation, my dear students, is not noise. It is architecture. It is art. And in the hands of a conscious leader, it becomes a sacred act of building the invisible structures upon which great teams, great cultures, and great achievements are built. If dialogue is to be truly alive, if it is to breathe, to grow, to transform, then the leader must master one of the most subtle and powerful arts of all: the balance between speaking and listening. Too often, leadership is unconsciously equated with speaking, with giving orders, casting visions, issuing feedback, making declarations. But I tell you this: true leadership happens far more in the silence between your words than in the brilliance of your speeches. It happens in what you allow others to say, in what you are able to hear, in the space you create for voices other than your own. There is a simple but profound principle here. The more you listen, the more your words will matter when you finally speak. The less you listen, the more your words will be met with skepticism, resistance, or indifference. Imagine a conversation where the leader dominates every minute, filling the air with plans, arguments, defenses, instructions. There is no room for the team's thoughts to surface. There is no oxygen for new ideas to breathe. There is only the exhausting monologue of authority pretending to be dialogue. And what happens over time? People disengage. They nod politely, but inside, they retreat. They stop bringing their best thinking. They stop bringing their full selves. Now imagine a leader who speaks clearly and purposefully, but who listens twice as much as they speak. Who, when they speak, does so only after deeply absorbing the thoughts, emotions, and needs of those around them. Whose words, therefore, are not imposed from above, but rise naturally from a collective intelligence that has already been honored. Such words carry a different weight. Such leadership awakens not compliance, but deep, authentic commitment. The leader must see themselves not as the solo voice above the group, but as the steward of the group's voice. Speaking is necessary leadership without articulation dissolves into chaos. But speaking without listening is noise. It is shouting into an emotional void. True conversational leadership is like conducting a symphony. There are moments to lead with strong, clear gestures. And there are moments to step back, to listen, to let the music rise from the ensemble itself. The art lies in knowing when to play which role. The balance between speaking and listening is not mechanical, it is alive. It requires sensitivity, presence, intuition. It requires a willingness to be changed by what you hear, to allow dialogue to shape not only the team, but yourself. Because in the end, leadership is not a performance. It is a relationship. And relationships live and die in the quality of the listening we are willing to offer. To listen is not to lose power. It is to anchor it in something deeper than authority, in trust, in connection, in the shared heartbeat of collective purpose. Speak, yes, but listen more. And in that listening, you will find a leadership that no decree, no monologue, no command could ever achieve. There is a truth about communication that is both humbling and liberating. People do not believe what you say because of your words alone. They believe you, or they doubt you, because of everything else. Because of how you say it, because of the invisible currents of energy and emotion that you transmit beneath and around your words. Communication is not only verbal. In fact, research suggests that the majority of the emotional meaning of any message, the feeling it evokes, the trust it builds or destroys, is carried nonverbally. Through tone of voice, body posture, facial expression, pacing, and the subtle harmonies or dissonances between words and presence. When a leader speaks words of encouragement but delivers them with a distracted gaze, closed arms, or a rushed, clipped tone, what is believed is not the words, but the body's silent message. You are not important enough for my full presence. When a leader says, I trust you, but their voice trembles with unspoken anxiety, what is believed is not the statement, but the vibration of doubt leaking through the cracks of performance. Congruence is the secret of trustworthy leadership communication. Congruence means that your words and your nonverbal signals align, that your verbal message and your emotional reality are not in conflict, but in harmony. That when you say, I believe in you, your eyes say it, your hands say it, your entire being says it. And when there is congruence, something magical happens. People feel it. They trust it. They lean in. They open themselves to your influence not because they are coerced or commanded, but because they sense, deep in their ancient, intuitive nervous systems, that you are safe, you are real, you are human. Leadership conversations, then, are not managed only through words. They are orchestrated through the whole self, through the stance you take, the breaths you draw, the silences you allow, the rhythm of your speaking and listening, the warmth or tension of your facial expressions. And this orchestration is not a performance you can fake. It is a transmission of your actual state of being. If you are anxious, the room will tighten. If you are grounded, the room will settle. If you are defensive, the room will brace itself. If you are open, curious, compassionate, the room will breathe more deeply. Thus, the work of leading conversations nonverbally is first the work of leading yourself emotionally. Presence precedes persuasion. Embodiment precedes eloquence. Before you step into any critical conversation, ask yourself not just, what do I want to say? Ask also, what do I want to transmit? What emotional climate am I creating by the way I enter, the way I breathe, the way I hold my gaze? Because leadership is not merely what you say. It is the energy you carry into the room. It is the emotional resonance you create long before and long after your words are spoken. Now we step into one of the most critical and most challenging territories of leadership dialogue. The space where tension arises, where emotions flare, where conflict simmers just beneath the surface of words. And let us be clear from the beginning. Tension in conversation is not a failure. Conflict is not a sign that something has gone wrong. Rather, tension is energy. Conflict is the raw material of transformation. It is a signal that something vital is at stake, that people care, that real stakes are being negotiated, that hidden truths are pressing to the surface. But to harness this energy, to transform it into growth rather than destruction, a leader must know how to stay present in the fire without being consumed by it. A leader must learn to navigate emotional turbulence with steadiness, with grace, and with fierce compassion. The first and most vital principle is presence. When tension rises, our instincts betray us. We want to flee. We want to fight. We want to shut down the discomfort as quickly as possible, to end the meeting, to silence the voice of dissent, to change the topic. But the leader who can stay, who can remain grounded, breathing open, creates a space where the conversation can deepen rather than collapse. Presence in conflict means slowing down when everything in you wants to speed up. It means breathing when your heart races. It means listening even more carefully when you are tempted to defend. The second principle is emotional regulation. You cannot lead others through emotional storms if you yourself are tossed helplessly by every wave. Leadership demands that you be the calm eye in the center of the hurricane, not because you suppress your emotions, but because you have learned to feel them without being ruled by them. When anger, fear, or hurt arises in a conversation, acknowledge it within yourself and within the group. Say what is true without blame. I can sense that there's a lot of frustration in the room right now. I'm noticing that this topic is touching some strong emotions for us. Naming the emotional reality with steadiness robs it of its destructive power and transforms it into workable energy. The third principle is keeping the dialogue open. Conflict tempts us to close down, to shut doors, to retreat into certainties, to declare winners and losers. But leadership dialogue must remain a living bridge even when it shakes and sways in a storm. Instead of reacting to conflict with counterattack or withdrawal, respond with curiosity. Help me understand what's most important to you in this situation. What are we really fighting for here? What would a solution look like that honors the deeper needs on both sides? This kind of leadership does not pretend that conflict is easy. It does not seek to eliminate all tension. A tension-free environment is a lifeless environment. Rather, it seeks to hold tension with enough skill, enough patience, enough humanity that it becomes a crucible for collective growth rather than a battlefield of personal egos. Leading conversations through tension is not about avoiding storms. It is about learning to sail skillfully through them. It is about turning emotional turbulence into the very wind that drives the ship forward. And when a team learns from your example that conflict can be faced without shame, that hard truths can be spoken without destruction, that tensions can be worked through without betrayal, then you are no longer just managing people. You are leading them. You are growing them. You are building a team capable of resilience, capable of greatness, capable of staying human in the hardest of moments. And that, my dear students, is a leadership gift rarer and more powerful than almost any other. Now, as we continue to deepen our understanding of leadership dialogue, we must also confront the pitfalls, the subtle traps that even the most well-intentioned leaders can stumble into if they are not vigilant. Because it is not enough to know what to do. We must also be wise about what to avoid. The first common trap is talking over others. It often happens not from malice, but from impatience, from the drive to move things forward, from the belief that as a leader, you already see the solution, and there is little need to hear more. But when you talk over someone, when you interrupt or dominate the conversational space, you do not just silence a voice. You send an invisible but powerful message. Your contribution is less important than my urgency, and that message, repeated over time, erodes trust, stifles creativity, and turns dynamic dialogue into a stage for monologue. A leader who learns to resist this impulse, who learns to let others finish, to leave space for slower speakers, to honor the rhythm of dialogue rather than imposing their own, builds a culture where people dare to bring their fullest selves into the room. The second trap is solving too quickly without exploring underlying issues. In our desire to be effective, to be helpful, to show decisiveness, we often jump to solutions before we have fully understood the problem. We listen just long enough to identify a pattern, and then we offer advice, make decisions, prescribe fixes. But in doing so, we may address symptoms while missing causes. We may fix the surface while the deeper issue festers unseen. Worse, we may rob people of the chance to articulate their own wisdom, to arrive at their own insights, to participate fully in the solution. True leadership means slowing down enough to ask, what is the real issue here? What are the emotions entangled with this challenge? What does this person or team need most right now? Advice, action, or simply acknowledgement? To move too quickly is to lead shallowly. To linger long enough in exploration is to lead deeply. The third trap is ignoring emotional undercurrents in the name of efficiency. In the press of deadlines, in the urgency of deliverables, emotions can seem inconvenient, distracting, even dangerous. And so leaders, consciously or unconsciously, often steer away from emotional currents. They ignore the hesitation in a team member's voice. They gloss over the tension crackling in a meeting. They pretend that the unspoken grief after a failure does not exist. But what is suppressed does not disappear. It festers. It festers into cynicism, disengagement, passive resistance. Efficiency bought at the price of emotional blindness is a false efficiency. It creates invisible costs in morale, in trust, in innovation that eventually far outweigh any short-term gains. The courageous leader recognizes that honoring the emotional reality of a team is not a detour from results. It is the path to sustainable, human-centered success. Avoiding these conversational traps, talking over others, rushing to solve, ignoring emotional reality, is not about being slower or softer. It is about being wiser. It is about understanding that dialogue is not a mechanical exchange of data. It is a human encounter, alive, messy, and full of possibility. And the leader who learns to navigate these human waters, who honors the full complexity of conversation without falling into these subtle traps, that leader builds not only better outcomes, but better people. As we come to the close of this lesson, I want to invite you to pause, to let everything we have explored not just settle in your mind, but resonate in your heart. Because dialogue, true dialogue, is not a technique. It is a way of being. It is a way of leading from a place of deep humanity. What we have uncovered together is simple in essence, but profound in its implications. First, leadership dialogue is emotional, not merely informational. When you speak, when you listen, you are not merely exchanging ideas. You are exchanging energies. You are creating emotional climates. You are shaping perceptions of trust, safety, possibility. Every conversation either strengthens or weakens the invisible threads that bind a team together. There are no neutral exchanges. There is no such thing as just getting through a meeting. Every word, every silence, every gesture either builds or breaks. Second, dialogue is co-creation, not control. The best leadership conversations are not performances where the leader delivers wisdom to passive listeners. They are living fields where meaning is grown together, where insights emerge not because they are imposed, but because they are discovered, nurtured, made possible. When you speak with openness, when you listen with real presence, you invite a higher collective intelligence into the room, an intelligence that no single individual, no matter how brilliant, could summon alone. Third, mastering dialogue means mastering presence. It means understanding that the most powerful part of communication is not the brilliance of your arguments, but the quality of your attention. It is how fully you show up. It is how deeply you listen. It is how courageously you hold space when emotions rise. It is how sensitively you notice the shifts beneath the surface, the tightening shoulders, the hesitations, the sudden sparks of energy that signal something vital trying to emerge. To become a master of leadership dialogue is to become a master of creating spaces, spaces where truth can be spoken, creativity can flourish, and trust can be built word by word, moment by moment. And let us not romanticize this work. It is not easy. It demands patience when you are tired. It demands humility when you would rather assert. It demands courage when conversations grow uncomfortable. It demands relentless commitment to seeing the human being behind every voice, behind every question, behind every resistance. But the reward, my dear students, is extraordinary. When you lead through dialogue, you do not just move tasks forward. You move people forward. You grow them. You awaken capacities they did not even know they had. You build cultures where people are not afraid to think, to speak, to dream, to dare. And that is the kind of leadership the world is starving for. So remember this. In every conversation, you are either building a bridge or a wall. Choose the bridge. Build the bridge. Be the bridge. Because in the end, leadership is not measured by how many words you speak. It is measured by how deeply you are able to connect, to hear, to transform. And all of that begins and ends in the sacred space of dialogue.